Hey guys, welcome to Triple T.
We're your hosts, Meeghan
and Stephanie.
So in this episode, we're just going to do a little intro background on who we are.
Yeah, I guess let's just get started. And we'll talk about our background. We'll both talk about our education. We both went to college. You went to grad school.
I went to too much college. So I have a master's in public history, which means I really like to, pretty much it means I really like to educate people about things. That's really all I learned when I started getting my master's.
And I went to college for art and film. But before we continue, Meeghan, what were all your majors? Go.
Oh, dear God. I started in psych. Then I wanted to do nursing. Then I was going to do bio pre-med. Then I did bio and psych. Then I did psych again. Then I did chem and psych. I don't even know. I don't even remember them all anymore. I ended up graduating in my undergraduate degree with a chemistry/psychology interdepartmental major, which I was hoping to go to grad school and get more into forensics. So obviously I love true crime. But that didn't work because grad school is expensive. And I couldn't move out of state, support myself, and afford grad school. That wasn't going to happen. So I ended up doing an online degree after I moved in with my boyfriend, now husband. And I decided to follow my passion, which is history. I love history. I love learning about everything under the sun in history, which kind of leads into the conspiracy part of our interests because, you know, there's a lot of history when it comes to conspiracies. And here I am today, not working in any of those fields whatsoever.
I mean, that's okay.
It's still what I love to do, and that's why part of why we're starting this podcast.
Right. So, who are we as a package deal, Meeghan?
Hold on, wait. You didn't talk about your college career.
I mean, what do you want to know?
Everything.
I mean, okay, so going into college, I genuinely didn't know what I wanted to do. I initially wanted to go into music, but I didn't know what I wanted to do with it. So the only thing I knew at the time was I liked filming and editing due to, you know, having the MnS Show on YouTube. And so I thought, well, I'll just start out with this major. If I find something better, I'll go from there. And that's when I started to learn that I really liked art as well. And so I dropped film and I started doing art, and then I realized, wait, I miss film. So then I picked it back up. And so, yeah, I mean, technically I majored in my art and then I minored in film, but I feel like I had film as my major long enough that I feel like I could kind of just say, like, I went to school for art and film. But yeah, this is why I'm still doing this. I thoroughly enjoy content creating. I think that's all you really need to know about my education. I did not go to grad school like Meeghan. I did not want to take the chance of trying to find money to do that.
I do not blame you at all for that because grad school just made me incur more student debt that I still have to pay back. So I totally get it. All right, so who we are is a package deal. I mean, we've been a package deal since 2007, I'm pretty sure we've been friends. So we've been best friends since 2007. I started out actually being friends with Stephanie's little sister first, because me and Stephanie, not that we hated each other, but we
just didn't know each other well enough to know, like, what we had in common and that kind of stuff.
Right. Like, we didn't run in the same circles. She had completely different friends than I did. So I actually became friends with our little sister, Erica, and we were pretty darn close. I mean, for just becoming friends, we got really close really quick.
Yeah. But I feel like a lot of things, like, we had a lot of things in common that was kind of seen as, like, embarrassing to, like, other people. And I feel like that's how we clicked so well. Because, like, there was nothing that, like, we couldn't, like, be open about, I guess.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah. Because, like, I remember,
that makes
like,
a lot of sense.
Yeah, I remember in school, like, it was not cool to like the Jonas Brothers, but, like, I could be around you and we would listen to Jonas Brothers, like, all day.
100% agree. Or, like, you know, we were getting to that age where it wasn't cool to watch Disney Channel, even though everybody secretly did.
Right,
and, like, we would talk about everything that was on. And, I mean, yeah, we were still kids. We were, what, 13 and 14?
Yeah.
2007. I was 11.
Or no, I was going to say, we were 11 and 12, weren't we?
When we started becoming friends, we were 11 and 12. And then we were 12 and 13 when we, became, solidified our friendship.
Right.
So it was, we were still young, but we were too old, according to our peers, to be doing the weird things that we did. I mean, we're still too old, according to our peers, to do things that we do. So, whatever. Yeah. But
I think our friendship actually helped us, be okay with it, though. Because, I feel like for a while, I was very, embarrassed to be open with, what I liked acting like, just...
Exactly.
And I feel like I've gotten to a point because of our friendship that, I don't care. There were some people who said, why do you do that kind of stuff? That's embarrassing. But at the same time, they were the same people who were jealous that we had the type of friendship that we did. So, at the end of the day, I think, it helped us, I don't know, it just made our friendship stronger in a sense, I guess.
It made us realize that nobody's really going to accept us for who we are, except for apparently each other. Yeah. So literally a year into our friendship, we decided that we wanted a talk show. And that is how the MnS Show came about. We were recording videos. I didn't even have a cell phone yet. I didn't, let alone a picture phone. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine? Picture phone? Anyway. 2007. Actually, it was 2000. It was actually our first year of friendship. We decided we want to do this. So I had my mom's cell phone so that she could call me from my dad's cell phone while I was out playing with Stephanie and Erica. And we decided that we wanted to do a talk show. So we would turn the phone to its side and record videos on the phone. There are so many lost MnS Show videos you've never seen. Right. And they were honestly gold.
Yeah. Oh,
but but we have been pretty much content creating since it became a big thing. YouTube had just started getting bigger at that point. Mm-hmm. So we decided we had to convince our moms to let us get YouTube because we were literally so young. And in 2008 was when we started trying to convince our parents to get YouTube. Mm-hmm. I don't know how long it took us. I mean, it had to have taken us probably an entire summer to convince our moms.
Yeah, I think the only reason my mom agreed to it was because your mom agreed to it.
Yeah, and my mom literally, I mean, not that she was controlling, but she had all the passwords to everything. She monitored things that we did. I mean, I know your mom did too. So she knew that we would be okay. And if we did something that was maybe not safe, she and Stephanie's mom would definitely take it down, or not take it down, but tell us to take it down because they don't know how to do that stuff.
Right. But yeah, and then once we created our channel, I mean, our first episode, which is no longer available, unfortunately, we don't know what happened to it, but it was sort of like this. I mean, it was just we sat down, we had mugs filled with Capri Sun.
Yeah, we didn't drink coffee back then.
But we made it look like it was like a talk show. And that was sort of how the MnS Show name started, because it was always meant to be some sort of talk show. And then from there, we ended up just we ran with that channel. We did whatever we wanted and uploaded it. It turned into something completely different.
You truly saw who we are in that channel because, I mean, we just enjoy life as much as we can, especially when we're together. I mean, we just do... Literally, the things that are on that channel are things that we do even when the camera's not recording.
Right.
We do that stuff all the time. I mean, all the time.
Yeah. And I think, if you guys are watching this on our channel, you will see that we did not change the name of our channel to match our podcast because, well, one, it's very nostalgic, just keeping the MnS Show. But, we never wanted the MnS Show to be, maybe in the beginning, but definitely not after at least a year or two, to be a brand. Right. That's just our life. It's not a brand. So I felt it would have been very forced if we changed the name of the MnS Show. Had we ever decided to upload full podcasts from here, we would probably just create a separate channel for that.
Yeah.
I mean, the MnS Show is the MnS Show. That's just our life. This is something in a sense separate, but they kind of intertwine.
Right.
We're coming up on our 13-year anniversary of our YouTube.
And it's been a couple of years since we've actually put out a new video. And I can't believe that we've been on YouTube for 13 years, let alone friends for that long.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any other person in my life that I've been friends with that long, except for Bobby.
Yeah, I remember even in the beginning of our friendship, I remember thinking, like, how have we only been friends for, like, 3 or 4 years? And then all of a sudden, like, we've hit 14 years of friendship, and it's like, what?
I know.
Where did that come from?
In those first 4 or 5 years, we went through so much more than normal friends go through.
Right.
So, like, I can't believe we've made it to 14 years of friendship, 13 years on YouTube. It's insane.
Yeah.
So we're getting older, and not that we need to grow up, but there's more mature content that we are getting interested in. And I mean, for a while, I didn't know Stephanie was interested in this stuff.
Yeah.
And then I think it was senior year of college we started talking about conspiracies together, right?
Yeah, I think so. I watched a lot of YouTubers that just talked about conspiracy theories, and it just kind of went from there. And I feel like with, like, true crime cases, I feel like I genuinely didn't care about that stuff until I literally, maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, like, I think one of the first documentaries that I watched, which I will talk about later today, was, I think it was on Netflix, Amanda Knox. And after I watched it, I was like, wait, what? And then from there, I was like, well, I want to watch another documentary that was that good. Yeah. And, like, I feel like from there, like, now in my spare time, like, whenever my boyfriend's like, oh, like, let's watch a movie. And I'm like, oh, you want to watch a documentary? And he's like, why? We always watch documentaries, but they're just so interesting. I don't know. I feel like this podcast is about stuff that I feel like we never really knew we had in common, or at least we didn't have in common until recently. So yeah.
This was actually stuff that I have loved my whole life. Conspiracy theories. I mean, I was homeschooled for probably half of my schooling, home and cyber. So, but my mom did a lot of teaching, and she doesn't teach the way that schools teach. So she taught us to question everything. And that's a lot about what conspiracies are about. And true crime, I mean, I've always been into that. Literally since I was like 8, I had been watching shows like Bones and Criminal Minds and CSI. Right. So true crime always fascinated me. And that's pretty much the last reason as to why we wanted to start this was because of the pandemic, COVID-19. So we have seen each other all of 3 times, 3 or 4 times. 4. So we saw each other all of 4 times since 2019. Now, if you know Meeghan and Stephanie, we don't do well being apart. Both of our mental health has been, in the
declining.
It's like in the toilet, but it hasn't been flushed yet. But we just, last year in like August, I think we had started talking about how it would be so cool if we did a podcast together, because really our videos are just us talking anyway. So what's the point in having a full-on video of just us talking?
Right.
And both of us have gotten into listening to podcasts. So this would be a great way for us to, take some time out in a week and be ourselves, be MnS, do things together.
Yeah, and I don't know if you remember this, but we were talking about like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we lived near each other? And we just had like a whole space for us to have a podcast. And we were talking about like, I was saying how like, oh, well, I have a basement. Like we were just talking about like different locations that we could do this. And who knows, maybe it'll happen one day. But for now, you will just have to suffer seeing us on 2 separate screens. But
womp, womp.
Yeah, this was fairly recent. I mean, like she said, it's been going on for about a year now that we've been talking about it, but it was like we hadn't been talking about this for years. It was kind of like a spur of the moment type of thing, but in a sense, like we had already been doing this for years. So
exactly,
it's just we're doing it at separate locations.
So like we're not together, but at least we're able to see each other, and we're able to hear each other, and we're able to have these conversations that we would have anyway.
Right.
And now you get to be part of that conversation.
Yes. So,
what's your favorite conspiracy theory?
Okay, so I don't want to get into too much detail because this will be a topic later on.
Ooh.
But I don't know if this is really like a conspiracy theory. It's more of just like, well, no, yeah, it is. Just aliens in general. Aliens and UFOs. I've just always been fascinated. I am just so sure that aliens are real.
Yes.
That, like, I almost don't consider it, like, a theory.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm so happy you brought that up because not that that's in my notes, but that is something that I am super passionate about as well.
I've just always been so obsessed with the idea of aliens that it felt wrong if I said anything else.
I feel you.
So, yeah, that's probably my favorite. I genuinely love just watching, like, footage of people thinking they've seen some sort of UFO or talk about, like, being abducted by aliens. I just think it's so fascinating.
I actually just listened to a podcast about the Roswell incident. Mm-hmm. It's so fascinating. I love that stuff. That's so cool.
But yeah, that's all I'm really going to say about it, because this will be a topic later on. But sure. That is probably my favorite conspiracy theory.
I love it. I'm all about it.
What is yours?
So mine are all of the theories surrounding the sinking of the Titanic.
Ooh.
So I wrote down 3 of the theories, and we'll probably go into more detail in a future episode, I'm sure. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here. So the first one is that it was insurance fraud.
Ooh.
So the Titanic had a sister ship called the Olympic, and they looked very, very similar. Mm-hmm. And the Olympic was in a crash with, I can't remember what other kind of boat, but it was in a collision, and it was found at fault. So it had to pay, and its damages weren't going to be covered by insurance. There's a theory that the ships were switched after the Olympic was patched up very badly, might I add. Yeah, so the Titanic sank because of that. The second theory has to do with JP Morgan, another person we're going to have to go into huge amounts of detail with because there is a lot of conspiracy surrounding JP Morgan. He was a banker, if you don't know, who dominated Wall Street, and he owned White Star, which was the company that owns the Titanic and the Olympic, and he wanted to eliminate some prominent bankers that were on board the Titanic. Their names were Jacob Astor, Isidor Straus, and Benjamin Guggenheim. And he wanted to eliminate them because they opposed his plans for a Federal Reserve. Another thing we'll have to go into a lot of detail about.
Right.
And then the third theory, and there are more theories than just these 3, but these are the 3 that I think are like probably my favorite, is that there was a curse from a mummy.
Ooh.
So I don't know if there's any truth at all to this, but there was a mummy who was, excavated from Egypt and brought to England in the early 1900s. And this mummy, was just bad luck everywhere. There was all kinds of trouble with this mummy. And then an archaeologist from New York bought the mummy and decided that he was going to I think it was a female. So he was going to bring her back. And because of that, the mummy's curse followed him onto the Titanic, which is how he was bringing her back. And that's why it sank.
That is so cool. I'm very excited for us to talk about this later on because I know very little conspiracy theories regarding the Titanic.
Which is so crazy because you watch Titanic all the time. So
I love Titanic.
Never heard the conspiracies.
No, there's like maybe a couple, which I won't go into detail about yet. But yeah, those ones, never heard of any of those.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it so much.
So, true crime.
What's your favorite true crime case?
Like I mentioned earlier, probably Amanda Knox. It was one of the first ones that I really cared about. I still think about it. Like, I still rewatch it, and I'm like, what? I don't get it. I don't want to go into too much detail, but for the most part, it was basically like this student went to study in Italy, and long story short, her roommate was murdered. And for years, they thought it was her and a boy that she met in Italy, and then turns out it wasn't. It doesn't sit well with me. I'm just gonna say that. But I like the documentary that I watched on Netflix. I like the way that it was just portrayed in general, because it kind of puts you in the mindset of how everyone was finding out the news as it was happening. So it was crazy. It was a very big... I don't want to blame the media, because you can only blame the media so much, but the media did put out a lot of very strange things, and it made you think one way, and then it made you think another way, and it's like, what? I'm still in shock over this whole thing. I still don't know how I feel about it, but I guess we will discuss this another episode. Meeghan, what is your favorite?
So this I actually had a super, super hard time deciding, because true crime has been literally, since I was little, one of my favorite things. I'm going to mention a few names because there are a couple, but I did pick one favorite. So the first thing I remember hearing when we were little about true crime that we lived through was the disappearance of Natalie Holloway. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
The second thing I became incredibly interested in was the Manson family murders.
Ooh.
I think that is the first documentary I ever watched about a true crime case. The third was Ted Bundy because I read the book, The Stranger Beside Me, and that just fascinated me. I read that for school when I was homeschooled because normal schools don't put that in their curriculum. But my favorite that I've picked is something that I learned about recently, and it's John Wayne Gacy, the killer clown.
Ooh.
Have you ever heard of that one?
I have. I haven't looked into it,
Oh my gosh. Okay, so there's a lot going on there, but I'm just going to say that he tortured, sexually assaulted, and murdered his victims. There are at least 33 young men that were found that he killed.
That's crazy.
26 of them were buried in his basement.
What do you mean buried?
Like
in his
he didn't
basement?
have a finished basement.
Oh, okay.
Like he had like
Ew.
dirt, and they. I think he ended up covering, like putting concrete down, but I don't remember.
That's crazy.
And before he even started murdering, he had been charged with sodomy already and convicted to 10 years, but only served 18 months. I don't remember exactly when he was arrested, but he was sentenced to death in, I think, the 80s and was executed by lethal injection in 94.
Wow.
So, I mean, it was insane. He was born in the 40s, I believe.
Ooh.
So a lot of this was just a lot going on.
I like all the ones that you picked because they're all ones that, like, I don't know about.
Oh my gosh. And those are all... Natalie Holloway is the only one I don't know a lot about.
I feel like our interests when it comes to conspiracy theories and, like, true crime cases are very different. And so
Right.
I think that's why this podcast, I feel like, is going to be really fun.
Right, because it's going to be a lot of us educating each other and
Yeah.
a lot of conversation.
Yeah.
So, do you have any tea for today?
Oh, I always have tea.
I know, you always have tea to spill.
Okay, so this, it's tea in a sense, but it's also a concern.
Oh no.
So I'm sure it's very obvious to anybody that influencers and celebrities, how they're handling the pandemic isn't that great. I mean, there are a handful that are taking it seriously, and there are a lot that aren't. So my tea regarding that is, do you know Lana Del Rey?
I've heard of her, but I don't know anything about her.
Okay. She is a singer. I never really cared for her music. I know a lot of people really like her. But
Didn't she sing a song I know?
I believe she is the singer of Summertime Sadness.
No! That song made me so mad freshman year.
Don't quote me on that, but I'm almost positive.
Let's find out. I'm going to look it up. Anyway, continue.
Anyway,
it was Lana Del Rey.
She recently had some sort of meetup with fans. First of all, why? There's a pandemic going on. But at her meetup, she wore a mask, but what it really was, and you can look this up on your own time, whoever's listening, including Meeghan, unless you want to look this up now, it was not a mask. It was literally like a piece of fabric with holes in it. Like,
What?
It was not a mask. Like, it literally was just, like, for style, for sure. And not only that, but, like, when she was taking photos with, like, fans, like, she was all up in their grill. Like, she was, like, hugging them, had her face touching their faces, and, like, There's
no fabric covering anything. There is literally looks like fishnet pantyhose.
Yes, it literally looks like fishnet.
Like, what?
Insane. So,
and she's hugging people.
Yes, yeah.
What? And people are okay with it.
Yes. I have only seen one person talk about this on YouTube. Maybe other people have, and I just haven't looked it up. But that was how I found out about it. And I'm like, how are people not talking about how wrong this is?
For real, I never heard about this at all before you're telling me.
Yeah, and
it's not in any mainstream media.
Yeah, and kind of going off of this doesn't have to do with Lana Del Rey? I don't think. I can't remember who it had to do with. It's another singer, female singer, and she was caught. She threw some sort of party, and she was caught, of course, and, you know, she came out with some apology, was like, I'm so sorry, it was so selfish of me to do this, blah, blah, blah. A month goes by, and she took a trip to, I believe it was Paris, and she threw a party there.
You've
now,
got
this is already
to be
after her
kidding
apology.
me.
She threw a party there, and she made sure that, like, everybody that was at the party, like, wasn't using social media so that it wouldn't get out, but she was still caught anyway.
Oh my gosh.
She's just still doing it. Celebrities and how they're handling the pandemic has truly been
insane.
The tea.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah, and I could list so many more, but those were just the ones that blew my mind. I'm like, how are people not talking about this?
I mean, like, I get it with some of them. You know, a lot of influencers and some celebrities are getting, like, COVID tests before meeting up with people and collabing, and that's good. That's safe. That's fine.
Right,
but, like,
right.
Seriously? Parties, fan meetups? We are in a pandemic. This is the reason that we are still seeing so many cases and so many deaths. Because people just aren't taking it seriously.
And this is definitely happening a lot with, like, social media influencers.
Yeah.
Like, TikTokers and YouTubers are throwing huge parties. I mean, there was one TikToker who threw a huge party and the mayor literally shut down his power.
Oh my gosh. I can't.
And it's just still happening, and you can look this up on YouTube. But I mean, there you can find footage of, like, influencers saying, like, yeah, I don't really care about, you know, this virus, like, I'm fine. It's just think about others. Come on.
For real. Like, you might be fine, but your grandma might not. Yeah. Your best friend might not.
Right. So I thought about bringing on some, you know, hooking up divorce stuff tea, but I felt like the pandemic was more relevant for me to bring up.
Yeah. Interesting.
So, do you have any tea?
So, my tea, which I can promise you is almost always going to be nerdy because I'm a nerd. And our tea, we're calling it tea, but it could be anything from celebrity gossip to, you know, current events, new headlines, whatever. So, my tea has to do with your alien thing.
Ooh.
About NASA landing a new rover on Mars.
Ooh, okay.
So, NASA landed Perseverance on Mars to keep searching for extinct alien life, which is so awesome. What I said, because I was looking this up while we were prepping for this and chatting, it was launched on July 30th and just landed February 18th. That's what I said. Wow. Because, like, you don't realize how far things are. And it took over 6 months for Perseverance to get to Mars from here. But, I mean, it's so cool. New York Times is calling it NASA's most ambitious effort in decades. So I think that that's going to be so exciting to see what comes from that.
I love, like, when there's some sort of, like, successful landing of some sort with NASA. I love seeing the photos of everyone, like, cheering and clapping. I just think that's probably so satisfying.
You just see the group of nerds and you're like, yes, nerds, you go.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I'm right there with them. So it's so cool. I love it. Yeah. So what you're going to look forward to is a lot like this episode. We like to ramble. We talk on and on. We get sidetracked. So you're going to see a lot of rambling about conspiracy theories for sure. Yeah. For true crime cases, you're probably going to see us focusing more on the facts and maybe theories about what they think happened, but we're not going to ramble as much as we do with conspiracies, because with conspiracies, there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah. I mean, conspiracies are going to be a lot more laid back than when we talk about true crimes.
Yeah.
And we're probably going to sound a little crazy because we just kind of not did a test run, but we had a conversation the other day when we were testing out all this stuff, and we were just getting so hyped up with what we were talking about. So we might seem a little crazy when we're talking about conspiracy theories. They're just very interesting.
It's especially because, and I mean, we've been going back and forth on this a lot lately.
Yeah.
We as people, as humans, I don't know how it is in every other country, but the American school system, you are taught to just believe the things you're taught to in school.
Right.
And I mean, I got a little glimpse of not believing that at home because being homeschooled, my mom was like, okay, but why? Mm-hmm. Why? She always asked us why we believe something, why this, why that, why did this person do this? So I have a lot of questioning why. Mm-hmm. And conspiracies let us question why.
Yeah.
How.
And I think a big thing, especially for you, I feel like this will be interesting because, you know, we talked about how we like heavily believe in science, but we are also very interested in conspiracy theories. So to see those two things like conflict, I think will be interesting when we talk about conspiracy theories.
Well, and I think another thing, because I mean, I'm a scientist, I'm a historian. I love these things. I believe in these things. But do I only believe in these things because I was taught them?
Right.
Because I paid money to learn these things?
Yep.
I don't know.
Right.
So with conspiracies, there's always a little bit of truth somewhere.
Right.
And that is how conspiracies start. It's not just people being crazy and being uneducated. Right. There is, I mean, some of them are. I will admit that wholeheartedly. But not every conspiracy is just somebody being crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing wrong to question what you are being told.
I mean, questioning is how you confirm that, yes, this is true. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're taught to believe it, but you can't just believe things just to believe them.
Right.
Like, okay, so in the Santa Claus, they say, seeing isn't believing, believing is seeing. Mm-hmm. That used to be one of my favorite quotes ever. And I mean, it works, especially for, you know, things like that. But I'm thinking I got to start seeing some things before I believe them.
No, I mean, you're not wrong. I feel like it would be worse if you just believed everything you're told rather than questioning it.
Exactly. And I mean, having faith, there's nothing wrong with having faith in science, having faith in this, having faith, you know, even religiously. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But if you feel that you need to question something, do it. Right. You need to explore that, do it.
Yeah. Like, I heavily believe in science. But that doesn't mean I don't question it.
Exactly. So now that we've covered all of that, I feel like you definitely know us a little bit better.
Yes.
So what are we talking about next time?
Next time, we are talking about Britney Spears. The Free Britney movement.
It's going to be an interesting podcast because I know some stuff about that, but not a lot.
Yeah, there is definitely a lot to talk about and definitely more research that I'm also going to put in, even though I do know a lot.
It'll be fun.
Yeah. So, yeah, make sure you watch our next podcast. Like we said, you can find us on Spotify, Apple, and some highlights on our YouTube channel. Everything will be in the description.
And don't forget to subscribe to all of those if you want to get the notifications that we have put up a new episode. Follow us on our social media accounts, Instagram and Twitter. Again, those will be in the description so that you can interact with us and maybe get some behind the scenes images. We'll see.
Yes, thank you for listening.
And that's the Triple T. See you next time, guys.